Not too many days ago, a middle-aged couple tragically, fatally crashed their car at the US-Canada border. And here's what happened. This was last Wednesday. Shortly before noon, a Bentley drove into the Rainbow Bridge border crossing in Niagara Falls, New York at high speed. Lost control, was launched into the air and exploded when it made contact with some of the infrastructure there at the bridge and the border. The two were declared dead and flames were raging from the car. A person working at the crossing was injured but suffered non-life-threatening injuries, which is a miracle in its own right. So that is a crazy, tragic story. But for some, it's not enough of a story. We need something to add a little bit of spice and get a little bit more mileage out of the tragic death and of two people and the injury of another. And so the conspiracy theorizing spools up, and suddenly it's terrorism. And I want to be very clear that if you saw this news and thought it could be terrorism, I think that that is perfectly reasonable. It's at the border, there's flames, maybe there was an explosion. You can think that it might have been terrorism. But when you are stating definitively from a position of authority, either your elected office or your position in, establishment or independent media, that it was terrorism, and then try to get mileage out of it, that's not newsmaking, that's grifting. That's all that is. It's conspiracy theory grifting. And I want to run you through a little bit of it. Now, it started off with Fox News is running 2 dead after attempted terror attack at New York, Canada border. Again, they're supposed to be a news source. You can say suspected terror attack. You can say questionable incident. They're simply saying it's a terror attack. And it wasn't just in their chyrons. It was all over Fox News. Take a look at this.
We don't know how long the people who perpetrated this attack have been in this country. Did they recently come across? Did they come into the country legally? Did they come across illegally and claim asylum? Were they some of the nearly 1 million gotaways who've come into this country?
And what happened at the border today sent chills through most Americans. It was scary. People didn't know if it was a terrorist attack. We didn't know exactly what was happening or what the motive was. It made us ask ourselves, could it have been related to the open border policies of the administration? Was it simply an accident? We don't know, but it caused us all to think.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul holding a news conference and saying there was no indication of a terror attack in the car explosion at the US-Canada border. We are going to monitor that. And coming up, liberal leaders think they know what's best when it comes to fighting so-called misinformation.
Yeah, so again, so-called misinformation. We don't know anything about actual misinformation, just so-called. It really makes you think. No, it doesn't. It makes you do the exact opposite of thing. I mean, I guess you're thinking about how you can get something out of the tragic death of 2 individuals, but all of them. It wasn't just this could be terrorism. It was terrorism. It's because of the border. It's because of Biden. It's because of the million gotaways. And they just start thinking, what can I get from this? And it's not just the media. Ted Cruz posted this. This confirms our worst fear. The explosion at Rainbow Bridge was a terrorist attack. Both attackers are dead and 1 law enforcement officer is injured. I am praying that blah, 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 blah. This confirms our worst fear. By the way, do you see what confirms our worst fear? A post by Benny Johnson. What the hell is that supposed to be worth? That is a senator, a United States senator, saying a right-wing grifter posting his Islamophobic fantasizing is proof that this is a terror attack. Now, he eventually deleted that message. We can have a conversation about which is worse. The people who deleted it after posting it, those who just left it up and pretend that it's still, like Charlie Kirk says, here's the very moment the terrorist vehicle exploded. I think on his show, he eventually admitted that it was not terrorism, but a lot of them are they're leaving those posts up, including one of the most important people on Twitter, which would obviously be Cat Turd, who said nothing to see here. It was just 2 rich adults in a nice car driving 100 and purposefully ramping to their suicidal deaths because they were mad at a Kiss concert being canceled. Farting sound. It definitely wasn't terrorism though. No, it was just that thing that you said. I mean, you added up like purposefully ramping up or whatever. It was 2 people who tragically died in a car accident. By the way, Katzer, did you know that like many tens of thousands of people die in fatal car accidents in the United States every single year? It's a tragedy. It's not a terrorist tragedy. So anyway, this shouldn't be surprising to us. Everything is a conspiracy theory. It's not conspiracy theories anymore. It's conspiracism. It is a worldview where everything has to be whatever I want it to be. And you see that filtered through people who are incredibly powerful, incredibly wealthy, and they're all over the place. I apologize, JR. What do you think? You've muted yourself. I didn't mute him. Don't have a conspiracy theory.
You are lying to me.
Am I?
I was unmuted the entire time. So I was going to drop my huge metal can of water like last time. There's all kinds of thoughts people have when things like this first happen. The first thought I had was, oh, I wonder if someone had some kind of medical emergency in that car and end up slamming on the gas and smashing through, because that's something I think about. It's just the way my brain works. Doesn't mean it's right, but usually when I think that, I would go, man, I wonder if that happened. And then you go, let me find out if I'm right. Instead of then going, you know what, breaking news, I wondered something, therefore it's now fact. That's only the case if your motivation for thinking a certain way is to push something else afterwards. So of course, to push something afterwards is, now how about this Biden agenda in the border? I thought you guys were always complaining about the southern border. So now, this is the Canadian border, am I right? Am I losing my mind?
This is Canadian border, yeah.
So then Canadian border is now where we can say, look, I've been telling Joe Biden to do something about that border. I told Donald Trump was gonna build a wall. So, it's not connecting to all of your normal hateful things that you say to have a political argument about things, to jump straight to these types of conclusions. And yes, we always hear about how conservatives never want to talk about the culprits behind any kinds of attacks, domestic terror attacks, from school shootings to club shootings to the middle of the streets shootings. It doesn't matter, to grocery store shootings. They never have any answers, even when we have answers about the culprits, ever. But when we have nothing here, it's already straight to the first fears. You can have those wonders. You can wonder if it's a terror attack. It makes sense to think so, but you don't have to go to that next step and then have, that really stuck out to me too, John. A senator of the United States of America followed some guy who does a podcast. And I would say the same thing. If you tweeted out something, John, and then a senator says, confirmed, John Iadarola said so, I'd go, man, this guy needs to calm down. John,
I know.
Just tweaking.
Yeah, 100%. Like we were talking about, the speculation that it was a hate crime in the shooting of the 3 students of Palestinian descent. If I just tweeted, it was a Patriot Front hate crime. They planned it. Boom. And then Bernie Sanders is like, this proof, like, what are you talking about? But it's totally acceptable on their side. Like Ted Cruz just deleted the tweet. He doesn't care. I guess that's better than leaving it up. Not as good as taking stock of what you did and how you tried to manipulate people into advancing your own political agenda. But we have higher ethical standards than the entirety of right-wing media and their elected officials. 100%. Like it's just indisputable at this point. And then they will tell us constantly. Fox News is talking about this today on an unrelated story having to do with Joe Biden. This is why people don't trust the media. You guys just spent an entire news cycle lying about a story, and you're going to take no responsibility whatsoever for it. Maybe that's one of the reasons people don't trust the media. The issue is that while I can point that out, the hypocrisy doesn't matter because they don't want people to trust the media. They're media, and they don't want people to trust the media. It's the asymmetric battlefield that this political battle is being waged on, that we're trying to buttress support in a thing that we're criticizing, and they're trying to lower support for what they are. And they'll make money either way.
One thing it illustrates is that if you believe your stance has to be built in some kind of fear or hate, you have to build up the fear and the hate for your stance to still have any kind of standing. So any opportunity you can, you got to keep building that foundation for your actual conclusion, which is always the hate and the fear.
And by the way, if it turns out, JR, that, oh wait, no, actually, we now find out that it was a terror attack. They leased a Bentley, and then they did this as a terror attack. You know what we would do? We would tell you that because we're just giving you the best information we have access to. Why does it have to be wrapped up into like the core of who you are as a person? And I do know why it has to for them, because they're, again, trying to get something political out of it, whereas I'm just trying to educate people about the actual thing that happened. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.